You got it.
All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we're going to begin with our expedited accusation calendar for today, September 6, 2024. These are misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested and brought to the Fulton County Jail. Soon after being booked in, their cases were formally accused by the Solicitor General of Fulton County. Hence, this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. I'm just curious to know whether courtroom 2 is ready or whether I'm just speaking to an empty courtroom. So let me just check and see. Courtroom 2, are we good to go? Mhm.
Your Honor, while we're waiting on them to answer, I have a question.
Yeah,
sir.
I'm here, Your Honor.
Are there folks in the courtroom? All right, great. Just wanted to be sure. Thank you. Mr. McLean, what was your question?
Mr. Darius, let's see. Darius Williams.
He's still in felony court, McLean.
I'm sorry?
He's still in felony court.
Okay, just wondered. So when we get a chance.
Angelica Johnson.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Okay, Angelica Johnson. Okay, thank you.
Felony court.
Okay, thank you, Officer Norris.
You're welcome.
All right.
Your Honor, sorry to interrupt. Attorney Allen will be joining us momentarily, but she is not here yet. So if we could just do my cases first. I think I have positions 1 through 11.
1 through 11. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah? Good. All right. For individuals who are not courthouse staff, not an attorney, please keep your screen with the video off and on mute until you hear the case being addressed that you're interested in being part of, okay? As I was saying, my name is Judge Law. This is an expedited accusation calendar for cases that have been recently booked at the Fulton County and have already been accused. This would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. I will let you know what is your new accusation number, what are the charges brought against you, to appoint an attorney if required, and to set a bond, as well as to give you a court date if applicable. For those of you who've been charged with a misdemeanor offense or offenses, please remember your rights. The first one is the right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say during the course of this virtual court proceeding that's not only being recorded but live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. So please remember to exercise your right to remain silent. If you have a question, you can ask your attorney. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you. In terms of bond, some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond. And if you receive such a bond, you won't have to pay for the bond today, but you will have to comply with the conditions. Otherwise, the bond will be revoked and converted to a cash or surety bond. Others may only qualify for a cash or surety bond. And in those particular cases, you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. For those of you who receive a cash or surety bond, your next court date will be September 19th, 2024 at 9 a.m. This next court date on September 19 is a virtual proceeding. So for those of you who plan to attend, would need to get a Zoom link. Courtroom 2, who do we begin with?
This is gonna be position number 9, Ms. Jasmine Hurd.
Miss Jasmine Hurd is accused of simple battery, family violence, and simple battery from September 5th, 2024, under accusation number 24 CR 6314F. Ms. Hurd, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Will the host please switch off the video for Ramona Boyd? Miss Boyd, you come on, you start your video when you hear your case called. Are you involved in the Jasmine Hurd case?
That's my case, Your Honor. Sorry.
All right. Oh, Mr. Cook, okay. All right, Mr. Howard, any priors?
Second, 2024 battery DV arrest out of Clayton County. That's it.
Does it still show as open?
It appears. I'm not sure.
Okay. Ms. Mukeke?
Yes, Your Honor. I still, based on my reading of the GCIC, it still looks like it's open to me as well. The defendant in this case states that her and her boyfriend were chasing each other playfully upstairs when her aunt, Jennifer Hurd, came in the room and became upset about the noise. Miss Jennifer Hurd then slapped the defendant's phone from her hand, threw it against the wall, and a verbal argument occurred. Miss Jennifer Hurd told officers that the defendant ran up on her as she was leaving the room and punched her in the head several times. Jada Williams, who is Miss Hurd's daughter, stated that she came back from school and the defendant confronted her about Miss Jennifer Hurd taking her phone, rushed at her, and began punching and pulling her hair. All 3 parties were arrested. Miss Jennifer Hurd is currently being held on felony charges, and Miss Jada Williams's charges were dismissed. Given the fact that the defendant has an open battery family violence case, the state's recommendation is going to be $1,000 surety bond on each count. Stay away from the incident location, no further contact with Jennifer Hurd or Jada Williams, anger awareness, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. Based on my reading of the report, it looks like Miss Jennifer Hurd lives at a different residence, but Miss Jada Williams and the defendant live in the incident location.
Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is 19. She is not working this time. She did graduate from high school. He has a CNA certification. There's a lot going on here, obviously. She denies the allegations as stated in the warrant. We would be seeking a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate, and no restriction on going back to the location. We have no problem, and she has no problem with restrictions on contact other than that.
Will the host please place Ramona Boyd in a waiting room, please? Thank you. All right. Miss Jasmine Hurd, this is now your second domestic violence case in 1 year. This is not a good track record to establish. I'm going to grant a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2, for simple battery family violence, and 1,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2, for the simple battery. Her total bond is going to be $2,500. Signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. She must report to pretrial twice a month within 30 days. Yes, ma'am.
Are you charging me from what happened in Clayton County?
That I'm just mentioned that this is your second domestic violence case in the same year.
Okay, so that's what's making it 25?
Maybe she's not paying attention.
No, I'm confused.
I'm going to repeat.
I'm confused, like, I'm listening. They were talking in the back. It's not y'all. She was asking him a question, and I'm trying to listen to y'all, so I'm listening. I'm sorry, I was listening. I'm sorry. I
Your
apologize.
total bond is 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. You
Okay.
don't pay for the bond today, but you have to comply with the following conditions. Failure
Okay.
to comply will result in your signature bond being revoked and converted to a cash bond or to a surety bond.
Okay.
The conditions are to report to pretrial twice a month. Stop. Yeah, what's the question?
Where is pretrial?
You will find out once you
Okay.
go through your orientation.
Okay.
You will report to pretrial services twice a month. You are to have no further contact with Jennifer Hurd. And you're to have no violent contact with Jada. Was it Jada Williams?
Yes,
Yes.
Your Honor.
No violent contact with Jada Williams. Within 30 days of being released, you are to enroll in a domestic violence program, and you can Google a qualified domestic violence program online. This is a 24-week program. You have to attend those classes every week, and you have to pay for those classes out of your own pocket. Failure to comply and attend those classes will result in your signature bond being revoked and converted to a cash bond or a surety bond. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
From this point onwards, if you get arrested again for anything else, if you fail to report to pretrial, if you fail to do your classes, or if you fail to report to court, the signature bond is gone. Thank you.
That's per judge.
Mhm.
Your Honor, you can go to ACDC.
Okay, thank you.
Morris. Good afternoon, Judge Law. This is gonna be, we're gonna start off with position number 6, Ms. Edwards.
Okay. April, this is.
This is my paperwork.
Oh, okay, thank you. This is Monikisha Edwards, accused of affray fighting on on July 15th, 2023. Ms. Edwards, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook, is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. And your accusation number is 24 CR 6310D. Mr. Howard?
7. 2016 disorderly conduct. 2014 FTA. 2014 simple assault. 2013 assault 3rd degree conviction. That's it.
Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is accused of getting into a physical altercation with Ashanti Mitchell and Edjeanette Mitchell, EDJENNETTE, along with Anthony Jackson. The defendant and Miss Mitchell were having a verbal altercation that led to a bigger physical altercation involving all the parties. Officers determined that all parties had a chance to not get into a fight, but they chose to do so. The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with Ashanti Mitchell and Edjeanette Mitchell, stay away from 1197 Joseph E. Boone Boulevard, Atlanta. It's my understanding that that is where Ashanti and Edjeanette Mitchell live, and Ms. Edwards lives across the street. Also, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Was she the only one arrested?
I do not believe so. I believe all the parties were arrested, but I will double check the
Well,
one.
they might have been, but I don't think anybody was on today's pull sheet other than her. I might be wrong on that. Mr. McClellan could.
I don't see any of them on this
Yeah.
bullshit. Okay, Mr. McCook? Any objection to the no further contact?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. On the affray, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services level 1. Ms. Edwards, you can sign up for your bond today. You have to have no further contact with the Mitchells and Anthony Jackson. If y'all live nearby, if you step out of your door and you see them outside, you have to turn around and step back in. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You cannot be within eyeball sighting of them. And if you see them in the supermarket or on the sidewalk or wherever, you are required by law to walk away, not hang around in the same position. Because right now, with this open active case, you don't have the freedom to just stand around wherever you want. If they're anywhere near you, you have to walk away. You are responsible for making sure that you're not near them.
Okay.
No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. If you get arrested again, the signature bond will disappear. You report to pretrial once a month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Judge, that was 2,000, correct?
Signature bonds for pretrial, correct. Thank you. Oh, sorry, April, you have to do it that way. You can stack them up and I can do them.
Next, Judge, we have number 10, Ms. Hogan.
Kawanika Hogan is accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property. Accusation 24 CR 6315G from June 17th of 2024. Ms. Hogan, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be either Mr. Cook or Mr. McLean. Mr. Cook, all right.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Howard?
Francois, what's the bond amount on that felony charge?
For the felony, you know what? I would have to ask Ms. Milton because she did the felony.
I'll be back. Judge, first arrest.
Okay.
Let me make sure.
Ms. McKay?
Let me double check that because I did not have that it was her first arrest, but I don't want to give inaccurate information. I have that she has 10 arrest cycles.
I've got a prior arrest for an abandonment of dependent child. And she's got that cocaine case in Superior Court. I've got a $2,000 bond on that, so.
Yeah, I also had a 2019 battery family violence. That time expired. A 2016 aggravated assault arrest. A 2020 battery family violence and criminal trespass first offender that is sealed.
Which county?
For her history.
Was it Fulton?
1 second.
Judge, I did find out the bond amount. Her bond was 2,000, good bond for
Oh.
felony.
For the felony case, yeah, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
She has a history?
I have that she has a history.
You do? Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at, the right person. Sorry, let me get you that county for the battery family violence. Where is it? It's out of Clayton.
Clayton? Okay. But the meantime, what's your recommendation for this particular matter?
Yes, for this particular matter where she's accused of slashing the tires belonging to Gwendolyn Thomas, who is her boyfriend's aunt, after her and her boyfriend had a verbal altercation, the state's recommendation is going to be $1,000 surety bond, no further contact with Gwendolyn Thomas, no further violent contact with Brent Hill, who is her boyfriend, stay away from the incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. We spoke with both Brent and Miss Gwendolyn Thomas, with Gwendolyn stated that she would like no contact with the defendant and also wants her to stay away. Mr. Brent Hill stated that he is not in fear of the defendant and wants to continue contact, and that the incident location is his residence. Since I'm not sure if Miss Gwendolyn Thomas resides at the residence, we are just going to ask for a stay away at this time. And I would ask the court to sound for both Brent Hill and Gwendolyn Thomas.
All right, is there a Mr. Hill on Zoom? Is there a Gwendolyn Thomas on Zoom? No? Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. We have no objection to the condition attached to the state's recommendation. We would be seeking a surety bond, a signature bond at whatever level the court deems appropriate.
All right, bond is set at $1,000 surety. Next court date is September 19th. No contact with Gwendolyn Thomas, no violent contact with Brent Hill. And if Miss Thomas lives at 4590 Washington Road in Atlanta, Miss Hogan has to stay away from that location as well. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no firearms. Next court date, September 19th. Thank you. Thank you.
Judge, next we have position number 12, Ms. Kent.
I believe that is ASG Allen's case. Could we maybe do that in a couple minutes to see if she's on by then?
Francois, we are only addressing positions 1 through 11 right now. The prosecutor for any other cases is not available. Do you have anyone else from 1 through 11?
No, that was it, Judge. It's just,
Okay, how many more do you have?
she's my last one.
All right. Ms. Mokeke, can you send an email or text to Ms. Allen? We need her as soon as possible.
Yes, okay. Well, since that's the last one, I can look at everything real quick and I can address the bond.
Okay, so what was that position, Francois?
Number 12.
Danetta Kent is case 24 CR 6301G, accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property. Ms. Kent, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Cook.
Yes, Your Honor.
And this is from an August 17th, 2023 incident. Mr. Howard, anything on Ms. Kent?
2022 probation, 2019 to 18 probation, 2018 disorderly conduct conviction, more probations, 2015 criminal damage to property, 2nd degree, possession of tools, giving false name conviction.
I heard 3 probation violations. Would that be correct?
It's actually 5.
And
Okay.
yeah, Ms. Mokeke, what's your recommendation?
Yes, Your Honor. For this case in which the defendant is accused of damaging the property of David Hughes by breaking his window, the state's recommendation is going to be a $1,000 surety bond, no contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. The victim did state that he wants no contact and wants her to stay away from his residence.
And she's got a hold in Troop, is that how you pronounce it? Troop County? All right, Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor. My client has lived in Atlanta her entire life. She was born in 1972. She is unemployed and has no income. Her position on this particular case is that she was staying at this location. Mr. Hughes owns it's more or less a boarding house, and it's very rundown, and that window has been broken a long time. And she had nothing to do with throwing anything to break a window. Says no, we don't have any
So you're
objection.
saying she lives at that location?
It does not
or-
anymore. No, she's moved. She's moved.
Your Honor,
No, Miss Ken, don't speak, please.
All right, bond is going to be set at 500. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with David Hughes, to stay away from, can't make out that number. I think it's 643 Etheridge Street in Northwest Atlanta. And unfortunately, she's got a hold by the Sheriff's Office of Troop County, TROUP. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
That's correct. Troop
All
County.
right. So Miss Kent, you've also got a warrant out of Troop County presently. So if you make bond in Fulton County, Troop County will have to come pick you up. You can't be released right away. Your next court date is going to be September 19th. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. We're completed here, Judge Law.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Norris.
Got it. Next, Your Honor, in courtroom 2 is gonna be position number 4, Christopher Crosby.
Mr. Christopher Crosby is accused of battery family violence, September 4th, 2024, under accusation 24 CR 6308F. Mr. Crosby, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Cook. Any priors?
Tracy, tell me you got first arrest. Hopefully they
I-
didn't mess up all my histories.
I do have first arrest.
Okay. And what? Yes, please.
Yes. So in this case where the defendant is accused of slapping his boyfriend, Austin James, several times in the face during a verbal altercation, this did cause swelling and bruising to the victim. The defendant also bit the victim on his arm. When officers arrived at the incident location, they observed the defendant chasing the victim. The parties were apparently doing DoorDash deliveries when the incident occurred. Our office has spoken with the victim, Mr. James, who states that him and the defendant were in a relationship and they do not live together. So this charge will be amended to just a battery charge. He confirmed the events in the warrant and stated that the defendant also kicked the front windshield of his motor vehicle. He stated this is not the first time they have had violence, but this is the first time the police have been involved and he wants no contact. Given that this is the defendant's first arrest, the state will recommend a signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with the victim, stay away from the victim's residence, anger awareness, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for the victim, Mr. Austin James.
Mr. James, if you're on Zoom. I don't know. Don't see any. Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 23 years old. They were, in fact, in a relationship. Then they were doing DoorDash. His position is almost the opposite, that the aggressor was the alleged victim, and I believe that's Mr. James, and that he was acting, to the extent he was in acting physically at all, it was in self-defense. We have no objection to the conditions of the bond. We would be asking for a signature bond through the jail, and we would object to, well, other than that, we would object to the anger management.
So this dispute occurred inside a car while both of them were on DoorDash deliveries. Is that the situation?
Yes,
Your
that
Honor.
is my understanding.
Delivering food.
Correct.
So when you deliver food and you knock on the door and someone opens, they'll see you all bruised and bloodied. Who's going to touch food like that? My goodness, that doesn't sound good. Okay, anyways, for Mr. Crosby, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No further contact with Austin James. No more joint work projects like DoorDash with Austin James. You cannot be within 200 yards of Mr. James. You cannot communicate with him in any way, form, or manner, including third party or discussing him on social media. You're to report to pretrial once a month, and you're to stay away from wherever Mr. James happens to be standing, working, or living.
Yes,
Your
Your
next
Honor.
court date is going to be sent to you at your current mailing address. So you need to update the court with your current mailing address within 48 hours of being released.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Thank you.
you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we're gonna go to position number 8, Mr. Tavon Harris.
Mr. Harris' case is 24 CR 6312J, in which he's been accused of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer and simple battery against a police officer from September 4th of this year. Mr. Harris, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Cook. And Mr. Howard, any priors?
2023 trespass, 2023 obstruction, PI arrest, another 2023 obstruction, 2019 probation, 2019 trespass no low, 2019 shoplifting no low, 2018 giving false name, disorderly conduct conviction, 2018 entering auto theft by taking first offender, and 2018 CWAC obstruction conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Mukherjee?
Yes, Your Honor. So in this incident, officers received a call about a male later identified as the defendant who was possibly drunk and bothering customers at the incident location. The defendant gave officers a false name, and when they tried to detain him, he resisted by raising both his arms, turning around, and pushing and pulling the officers away. The defendant also spit on Officer M. Martinez. Given the defendant's history, the state's recommendation is a $500 surety bond on each count. No further violent contact with Officer Martinez. Stay away from the incident location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on.
Okay. Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, my client is 31 years old. He works in remodeling homes for someone else. His income is very modest. We have no objection to the conditions of the bond. We would be seeking a signature bond at the appropriate level.
Okay. He doesn't qualify for a signature bond based on his track record and probation violations.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
So based on what the state is recommending, it's going to be $500 on each count. It's a $1,000 surety. Next court date is September 19th. He is to have no further violent contact with Officer Martinez, as well with any member of the law enforcement corps, and he is to stay away from the incident location. No illegal drugs, alcohol, and weapons, and to update the court with any change of address if applicable. Thank you. Our next court date is September 19th.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 1, Mr. Abdul Ali.
Here we go. Mr. Jelani Abdul Ali is accused of criminal trespass from yesterday, September 5th, and his accusation is 24 CR 6304C. Mr. Abdul Ali, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Cook. And Mr. Howard?
8. Last arrest was 2023 ag stalking, on probation for that as of April. It's 22 SC 184196. 2023 simple battery. 2022 simple assault giving false name. That's it.
Ms. Mukherjee?
Yes, Your Honor. The defendant is accused of following GSU student Alana Hamidi into the GSU Recreation Center. He approached Ms. Hamidi on the train and asked for directions. She advised him that he wouldn't be allowed to come inside the GSU Recreation Center as he's not a student. However, he followed behind her anyway. She swiped her Panther ID card to gain entry into the building. And of course, he proceeded to follow her. Then he asked Ms. Hamidi if she could rent him rock climbing shoes, but he didn't have the proper identification. So that was, of course, an issue. Ms. Hamidi informed GSU staff of what was going on, and they escorted her out of the area and contacted GSU police. He's currently being held on a $1,500 surety bond. I've just received some information from Investigator Coggins with the Fulton County Accountability Court. She is on the Zoom. The defendant is a participant of the behavioral health program. And ADA Collier, who is the attorney that is part of the accountability court, they're asking that he be held in custody until he can go back in front of Judge E. Richardson on September 26th. And Investigator Coggins does have a jail sanction signed by Judge E. Richardson. She is on the Zoom. I'm sure she can give a much more eloquent explanation than what I just gave.
Investigator Coggins, I'll be right with you. Mr. Cook, it seems that your client is part of this accountability court, which monitors individuals in terms of what occurs once they're released. Do you have any comment about bond at this time?
I would rather hear from the other folks first, Your Honor.
Okay, Investigator Coggins, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I saw that he was released from the program on August 13th, which is not too long ago. Anything else to add without referencing any treatment or his condition?
Yes, well, that release that you see is him coming back for a second time into the program because he had been taken into custody on a jail sanction for noncompliance. So we are wanting to bring him back in front of Judge Richardson on the 26th so we can deal with this new arrest and his continued noncompliance of the program because he has several criminal trespass cases.
Yeah, I see that. Thank you.
That is all I want to add. You're welcome.
Mr. Cook,
Your
any
Honor,
follow-up?
Your Honor, I don't know much about it. I got an email from some people in the felony court division not too long before the hearing. I don't. There's a lot going on here. I don't want to put him in any more jeopardy. I have no objection to him, obviously, nor would it do any good to have an objection to him as far as the appearance down the road. Beyond that, it's a little bit confusing. I'm going to leave it in the court's discretion. I'm hoping that between the accountability court and the other issues that he can be kept in the best position possible. There are obviously other things going on that we aren't addressing here. And I don't know what they are either, so nothing further.
Mr. Abdul Ali has been accused of criminal trespass based on the alleged allegations in this warrant of apparently following a student into a restricted area and refusing to leave. That's the allegation. On top of that, he was booked into jail on August 16, 2023 on a charge of aggravated stalking. He was booked in Fulton County Jail on July 1st, 2022 on a stalking charge. And he was booked into Fulton County Jail on January 2nd, 2020 on aggravated stalking, as well as on January 11th, 2019 on a criminal trespass charge. Given the similar pattern that Mr. Abdul Ali seems to follow, the bond is going to be set at $5,000. It is a surety bond. To have no further contact with Alana Hamidi and to stay away from all GSU property. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Presently, the case will be scheduled for SAP on September 19th, subject to whether the case is rerouted to Judge Richardson's court. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, you're gonna go to position number 2, Mr. Zachary Anderson.
This is Zachary Anderson, 24 CR 6306A, accused of fare evasion from September 5th, 2024. Mr. Anderson, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Well, Mr. Cook, I didn't realize MARTA was being so diligent about arresting people for failure to pay $2.50, but let's see what's going on. Mr. Howard, any priors?
42. Last was last year. Possession of drug-related objects. Appears to be open. On probation. Criminal attempt to commit armed robbery. 18 SC 161066. 2021 shoplifting. 2021 theft by taking. 2020.
That's good. Thank you, Mr. Howard. Ms. Mokeke?
Yes, Your Honor. The state's recommendation is going to be a signature bond through pretrial services. The defendant, as you stated, was arrested for not paying for entry into the North Avenue MARTA station. A social worker visit may be beneficial for this defendant. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and a stay away from that North Avenue MARTA station.
Mr. Cook is going to be a $500 signature bond through the jail to stay away from MARTA property in accordance with any and all suspensions that is presently in place. Mr. Anderson, right now I'm giving you a release bond of $500, but you'll need to come back to court to address this case. And if you get arrested again, or if you use MARTA property in violation of any suspension, well, we get to keep you for a little longer, okay?
Your Honor, he has a probation hold.
Oh, he does. Well, I guess we are keeping him a little longer. Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Next,
sorry.
Your Honor, we're gonna go to position number 3, Mr. Clarence Berger.
Okay. All right. Oh, Miss Allen, thank you for joining us. Now, Miss Mokeke did let us know you were otherwise. I just want to give you an update on position 12. Danetta Kent was at ACDC, and she's received a $500 surety bond to stay away from the incident location, no contact with David Hughes. Next court date is September 19th, and she's got a hold by the Sheriff's Office of Troup County. FYI. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Position 3, Clarence Berger is accused of simple battery family violence. Is that correct? Clarence Berger?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Case number 24 CR 6307C from November 13th, 2022. Mr. Berger, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors?
That's a lot. 12 total. 2023 out of carb, obstruction, possession of cocaine, open simple assault, on probation out of carb, sale of marijuana, possession of a Schedule 1, possession of a Schedule 1 with intent, so that's 3 charges. Possession of cocaine, possession of a Schedule 4, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission.
And when was this?
He got sentenced to 12 months back in February this year.
Okay.
It's a theft by taking with all of that too.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Ms. Mokeke, with regard to the simple battery family violence, looks like this was during the course of the last few cases. What's the state's recommendation?
The state's recommendation is going to be a $2,000 surety bond. The defendant is accused of hitting Ms. Kimberly Grace in the face. The parties do share a child together. The defendant came to the victim's house to tell her some news and asked for the birth certificate for their child. She gave it to him, and then he got upset and started looking through, some files, and then proceeded to hit her in the face and leave. The victim's eldest son was there, and he told officers that the defendant also pushed the victim, Miss Kimberly Gregg. No further contact with the victim, stay away from the incident location, some anger awareness, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I would ask the court to sound for Miss Kimberly Gregg if she is on the Zoom.
Kimberly Gregg. No one's answering. Mr. Cook?
Yes, I tried to get in touch with Miss Gregg and was unable to do that. Your Honor, Mr. Bergen came to Fulton directly from finishing up a sentence. 12 months. He had spent 12 months in Cobb and then finished it up at Jackson, Georgia. So they transferred him directly to Fulton just the day he got out. The only reason I bring that up is that he has been in contact with Miss Gregg. They do have 2 children together, and for the entirety of his incarceration time, according to my client, She has been visiting him. They get along, and he's been able to see his children for the last 18 months. This case is about 2 years old. He just walked out. He has no job and no income. We would ask for a if it well, no, this is a family violence. It might not even be eligible for a signature bond, but I do wish she had been on, we could get her online, because I think he is telling the truth that they are getting along. He needs to get out. He would like to continue seeing his kids. He would like to continue seeing her, but if the court deems otherwise, that we would have no objection. And since we don't have her testimony, we're kind of stuck here. So the lowest surety bond possible. I mean, he just days from getting out of the state system.
And just because we haven't spoken to the victim yet, we are gonna object to no further violent contact. Of course, if we come in contact with the victim and she states that she's fine with having contact, that can always be amended. But until then, I think it's best that they stay away from each other.
Oh, on the simple battery family violence, that's a $2,000 surety bond. Next court date is September 19th. No further contact with Kimberly Gregg unless she shows up to tell me otherwise. No contact with the children that he shares with her, and that would be ZB, and I can't remember the initials for the other child. Well, according to this warrant was issued on December 30th, 2022. So anyway, no contact with the children that he shares with Miss Gregg. He can file a legitimation action and get joint custody and joint visitation with the children he shares with Miss Gregg. And of course, have to pay child support as well. I don't know if he's paying child support elsewhere, but I'm just reading the warrant. And so I'm not certain of who visited him while he was incarcerated, since he's got another romantic partner. So I'm not certain, but Miss Gregg is not here to corroborate what you've said, Mr. Cook. So at the present time, it is no contact.
We understand.
Right. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and next court date is September 19th.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 5, Mr. Ron Davis.
Mr. Saron Davis is charged with criminal trespass from today, September 6, 2024, case 24 CR 6309E. You've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
2024 probation. On probation for ag assault. That should time out next month. 19 SC 173593. 2018 obstruction probation. 2014 burglary first degree FTA probation. 2013 theft by taking conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Mukeke?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, the defendant is accused of trespassing at the BP gas station located at 1990 Donnelly Howell, Atlanta, and harassing the customers that were there. The defendant had previously been criminally trespassed from the location on July 2nd, 2024. He currently has a $600 surety bond. The state is okay with him receiving a signature bond, but I'll leave that in the court's discretion. Stay away from the BP gas station. No further contact with Rizwan Katawar, who works at the location. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right, Mr. Cook, the state is amenable to a signature bond and it'll be a stay away. Any problem with that?
No problem, Your Honor.
All right. And he's got multiple, still got probation matters. What is his current mailing address? Where does he live?
His current mailing address is 2292 Kennedy Court Northwest, Atlanta 30318.
Is that a valid address?
Well, he gave me that.
I have a different address on Odyssey at Book
Yes,
Anytime,
you have the
so,
3405.
yeah.
Yes, I spoke to him. He said that is no longer his address and that the Kennedy Court address is the appropriate address now.
All right. Mr. Davis, your bond is going to be set at 1,500. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. By Monday, you have to come down to the courthouse and update your new address in writing. Do you understand? To the clerk's office, you must do that. Otherwise, we get to issue another warrant for your arrest if you don't show up in court. You report to pretrial once a month, and you stay 200 yards away from the BP gas station at 1990 Donald Lee Hollowell Parkway, and have no contact with the employees at that location, including, I just got the name Reswan.
Yes, his last name is Kadawar, Kadiwar. Might be mispronouncing it.
Yeah, that guy. Okay, stay away from him. Thank you.
That's per judge.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Your Honor, is gonna be position number 7, Mr. Arthur Hale.
How are you today, Your Honor?
Right there.
Avatar William Halle III Miller. My name.
I'm sorry, Deputy, what position number is this?
This is gonna be
7.
position number 7.
7, Arthur William Hale. Is that your name?
Avatar William Halle III.
Are you also okay, so what I have is State versus Arthur William Hale, HALE, 24 CR 6311G, accused of criminal trespass. Do
That's
you
how
have a different name?
That's how you say my name proper. Arthur is A Arthur essentially.
Oh, okay.
I think he's saying the correct pronunciation of what we would normally say. Hell is Halle, but it's spelled the same.
How do you pronounce HALE?
Ale.
Ale. Okay, Mr. Ale, you are accused of criminal trespass from September 5th, 2024. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Cook. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
17. The booking says resident of Rochester, New York. Got an open trespass in state court. It's 24 CR 000-687G. Got an entering and remaining out of Slidell, Louisiana. On probation, it appears for trespass 24 CR 004-447Y. That was as of July. Also on probation for battery 24 CR 004-630Y.
I'm attending.
As of July. On probation for simple battery, criminal trespass 24 CR 001-476Y.
That's good, thank you. Ms. McKirky?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, the defendant is accused of trespassing at the Aldi located at 3221 Peachtree Street Northeast in Atlanta. After previously receiving a trespass, it looks like the day before, he was harassing customers and asking them for their debit cards. The manager, Ms. Alicia Bowman, told officers that the defendant is a repeat offender and it's an everyday issue with him. He has also trespassed from other businesses that are within that complex. Given the defendant's history, which is concerning, given that all of this has happened relatively quickly, the state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond. Stay away from that incident location. No further contact with Alicia Bowman. A social worker visit or BHET might be appropriate. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
Mr. Cook?
Your Honor, we would not object to that. We would leave the BHET in the court's discretion.
Okay. On this new criminal trespass, he was just released from Fulton County on July 26th, but he missed us so much, he's back. His next court date is going to be September 19th, 2024. His current bond is going to be $2,000. It is a surety bond. no
I-
release bond.
I do work right now, Your Honor. I work at UPS. I could utilize a release paper that would demonstrate and let them know where I've been at. I do attend school right now. I've started out with my admissions officer right now at AIU, which is American Continental University, over on Dunwoody Road right now. Business management is what I'll be managing in. I'll be starting at the first fiscal, but I'll be doing training from this September up till that point. And I'll be traveling as well. I do have attendance to attend probation. I have not missed any probation. It is on the 24th of this September. I am traveling to New York. I have an address with Keith Cook right now. It's a 60 Thurston Road, which is like an aunt to me. I stay with her until I establish my apartment out in Irondequoit. I'll be traveling back and forth for school and probation. I am handling both right now. I had been, yeah, those are some of the positive things that I'm doing. I asked that you reconsider on the bail and make it a little cheaper. She is in the process of getting ready to let me get released right now. She'll be paying whatever the surety is for the bond. She just
Okay, then we're good then. Then we are good. So
But
it's
that's
a
the reduction.
it's a $2,000 surety bond. Your
Yeah.
next, once you release, you can do all you need to do, but be back in court on when you are summoned. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah,
by the
very
way, Ms. Champion, we're going to address both cases on September 19th. Do you see his second one, 24 CR 687G?
Your Honor, next we're gonna go to position number 16, Ms. Stephanie Murphy, but also Mr. Cook.
Yes.
You ready to interview Ms. Johnson? That was your last one.
Yes, and Angelica Johnson. Yes, I'm ready to interview at any moment.
Sorry, Your Honor. In regards to Mr. Hill, could we also get the stay away and no further contact?
Oh, I've got a stay away from the Aldi's at, what was it, 32 Peachtree Street?
Yes, 3221 Peachtree Street.
3221 Peachtree Street. Who was the no contact with?
That's Alicia Bowman. She is a manager at the location.
Okay. No contact with Alicia Bowman, Ms. Champion. Thank you.
Yes,
All right.
I'm about to mute here, so, okay, there we go.
Hang on, Mr. Cook, you're not muted. Please go ahead and mute your screen, or we can help you.
Yeah, please help me then. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I thought I was, yeah.
You got it? No. Would the host please assist Mr. Cook to mute the screen? Mr. Jordan? Miss April, are you a joint co-host?
No, ma'am, I'm not even.
All right, Mr. Cook, don't talk to your client yet until we've muted your screen.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Jordan, could you mute Mr. Keith Cook, please? He's having problems with his,
Okay.
thank you. Appreciate it. I'm sorry, Deputy, who do we have in courtroom 2?
This is gonna be position number 16, Ms. Stephanie Murphy.
Yeah.
So that'll be me, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. McLean. Mr. McLean, your client is Stephanie Murphy, accused of 2 counts of battery from July 29th, 2024 in case 24 CR 6305E. Ms. Murphy, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Michael McLean. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
Second, 2012 robbery obstruction, not prosecuted.
Ms. Allen, what is the state's position on this case?
Thank you, Your Honor. The incident in this case was a dispute between neighbors, essentially. Mrs. Murphy and her boyfriend, I believe, live in the downstairs portion of a duplex below, Mrs. Shyree, S-H-Y-R-E Staton, who also has an active warrant. These 2 ladies engaged in a physical altercation. The defendant in front of you has a prior battery arrest on a non-family member and was found not guilty at a bench trial. We're asking for an SOB through pretrial, Your Honor. just a request that she stay away from the location and have no further contact with Ms. Staten, Staten. If there is an ongoing dispossessory action, then that should handle it, but stay away and have no contact at all. Thank you.
Mr.
The
McLean?
address is 1003 Fair Street, Southwest. I apologize.
Mr. McLean, tell me what your recommendation is and what's the living arrangement? Like they live one on top of the other, and is there a landlord involved?
I'm not sure about the landlord, Your Honor. I think that from what I'm hearing, I agree with the state's recommendation. I'm concerned, as is the court, about how many feet are we going to be talking about if they're in a duplex. It's going to be difficult to, when we have neighbors with, 2.5 yards between them, when one comes out, the other one goes in, but they're pretty close.
Yeah.
My client is a teacher, and I'm sure that we agree with the state on the SOB.
And she wants to keep staying at the same location?
Well, Your Honor,
I don't think she actually lives there. Her boyfriend lives there and she's visiting.
She was visiting, that's correct.
The child's father. Okay, yeah, I remember. All right. Miss Murphy, as long as you don't live at 1003 Fair Street, Southwest Atlanta, that's a positive in your favor because you cannot return to that location. You are to stay 200 yards away from that location. If you want to visit your boyfriend, he needs to come visit you. You don't get to go there. Do you understand?
Ma'am, my children stay there. That's my children.
Then your boyfriend and the children can come visit you. You cannot go there.
Okay.
On each count of the battery is going to be $2,000. It's going to be a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You have a release bond, but you need to comply with these conditions. Otherwise, your signature bond of $4,000 will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. Stay away from 1003 Fair Street, Southwest Atlanta. You have to stay 200 yards away from that location. You're not to drive by the location. You can't walk by the location. You can't stop by to drop off the kids or pick them up. You have to maintain a distance of 200 yards. That's the length of 2 football fields from that location. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You ought to also have no contact with Shiree Stanton. You're not to communicate with her in person, through mail, email, third-party phones, and even on social media. If you discuss her on social media, that's considered a violation of your bond order. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and you are to report to pretrial once a month until further order of the court. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 22, Ms. Asante Youngay.
Asante Youngay is accused of battery family violence and simple battery family violence from yesterday, September 5th, 2024. Ms. Youngay, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and to counsel, and your attorney is going to be Mr. McLean. Any priors?
Second arrest, 2020 battery no low.
Your Honor, that's my case. That NOLA was out of Clayton County, and it is a battery family violence conviction. I looked up the disposition, I apologize. So this incident occurred yesterday, like you said, September the 5th. Police were called to the location, which is, oh goodness. One moment. They met the victim who called 911. His name is Cedric Leggett. He's joined us on the Zoom. He was sitting in his vehicle outside. He reported that the young woman in front of you is an acquaintance of him, has stayed with him previously, was not currently supposed to be staying with him, and had made entrance into his residence. He reported that she was asked to leave and that she assaulted him by grabbing his hair. He had a portion of his dreadlock ripped out of his scalp. He also reported, Mr. Leggett reported that when he went to call the police, she took her cell phone cord and wrapped it around her neck. So he went outside, afraid she was going to harm herself. Police made contact with the defendant. She claimed that she lived there and that they'd been arguing. And she claimed that the defendant had assaulted her and tackled to the ground by grabbing her by the neck. She then gave a different account of how she received marks on her neck. Police identified that she was difficult to corroborate, and she was identified as the initial aggressor. We're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, given that she's got a conviction out of Clayton County for similar behavior. No contact with the victim and to stay away from the location. Mr. Leggett is on the Zoom. He reports that there might be an MH issue. He seems sympathetic towards this young woman and said he's not fearful, but clearly this is not a safe situation. If the court would like to sound from Mr. Leggett, please go ahead. Thank you.
Mr. Leggett, if you'd like to contribute to this proceeding, you'll need to unmute and start your video. Cedric Leggett?
Yes.
Are you driving?
I'm in the car. I'm not driving. I pulled over.
Please raise your right hand.
All right.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
What would you like to tell us?
I would just like to say I don't want to see her in jail. I would like to see her get help though. Whether it's anger management.
Is she living with you?
I mean, kind of. She's on and off. I have an apartment that I allow her to come stay with me. And yeah.
Is she allowed back? Do you want to have contact with her?
I mean, I have contact with her, but I would like to talk to her some more so we can have a clear understanding about what's going on, you know.
So, Your Honor, the address, this location is 1459 Raintree Drive in Roswell. The police report notes that Mr. Leggett said that he'd had her removed from the location previously and that police had been called to the location before.
I saw that.
We would be asking for no contact.
All right, Mr. Leggett, you're under oath. I'm looking at the warrant and I'm looking at what you're saying. So they both don't sync. So if you want to tell me straight, do you want Miss Young Guy to come back and live with you? All right, now he's silent.
Yes, I didn't hear you. It was a delay of what you said.
What you are saying to the court right now is slightly different from what you told the officer.
No, I'm just saying I did press charges before, but I went out of the situation the case. I don't want to bite my tongue. I will have her come back to her house. Her belongings is still in my apartment. So,
Your Honor, our office has been in contact with Mr. Leggett, and it sounds like there is a cycle that's going on here. And obviously, Mr. Leggett is a human person and has some sympathy for this young woman. There have been prior incidences. We would request a one-time escort. And ultimately, Mr. Leggett, the court and the state, as well as the defense, have heard that you wish no ill will towards this young woman, and you think there might be some underlying issues. But we're here to protect your safety, sir.
All right. You're right. Okay.
Mr. McLean, do you have a...
Your Honor, given the charge was changed, to the battery, family violence, and the other matter, I don't know what she's eligible for exactly. We would ask for as low a bond as possible. If the signature bond is not available, I would like to ask for a low dollar amount down to $1,000. But she will abide by the court's orders, whatever they are, with regard to contact and getting belongings, that sort of thing. I have talked to her about she is employed. She doesn't make that much money, but unfortunately, just north of what's eligible for public defender. So she's
Okay.
going to struggle financially, and we need a low bond, if not a fixed bond.
Okay.
And
Mr. Jordan, I'm sorry, Mr. McLean, 1 second. Mr. Leggett, could you mute your screen, please? There's a lot of background. Mute your screen. Thank you. Okay. Mr. McLean, did you have anything else to add? I sort of lost the.
I'm sorry. She'll live with her sister.
Okay.
She can do.
That's good. Miss Asante Yungai, according to the prosecutor, you've got a previous conviction for battery, family violence, and now this is your second one for arrest for battery, family violence. I'm going to grant you a signature bond, but if you don't comply with the conditions, you'll be back in jail. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
On the battery, family violence is going to be 4,000. On the simple battery is 1,000. Your total bond is 5,000. It is a signature bond through pretrial services level 2. You report to pretrial services twice a month. You're to have no further contact with Cedric Leggett. You're to stay 200 yards away from him and not communicate with him in any way, form, or manner. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
If he calls you, you hang up. If you see him walking towards you, you run away. Do you understand? Because the person who ends up being in jail would be you. You are also to stay away from 1459 Raintree Drive in Roswell, Georgia. You're allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings. Understood?
Yes, Your Honor.
Within 45 days of being released, you are to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program.
Okay, I understand.
It's a 24-week program, and you have to attend all these classes at your expense and then produce a certificate for pretrial.
Okay,
Because
I
apparently you didn't get it the first time around.
I understand.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, we're going to go to position number 13, Mr. William Long.
This is State versus William Long, accused of criminal trespass from a September 5th incident. Mr. Long, your accusation is 24 CR 6302Y. And you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors?
54.
Repeat that number.
54.
54.
Yes.
All right. Any open cases?
I think the last arrest was theft of lost mislaid property, use of a firearm by a convicted felon, tampering with evidence, obstruction, and trespass. I don't know y'all gotta go find what the year is. I didn't put it down.
Any?
He was just convicted for that in 23 SC 189906 a year ago in November. So 2023, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
All right.
At a 2017 armed robbery, Your Honor.
Oh, that's good. Thank you. And what is the state's recommendation on the trespass charge?
We're asking for $1,000 surety to stay away from the location, which is the Chevron gas station at 1337 Virginia Avenue in East Point. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons. While on bond, he'd been previously trespassed from that location and is reported to have been harassing customers asking for money. He also admitted on scene to the police that he knew he'd been banned from the location.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, I understand that admission. It had been 3.5 months, which is not long enough. He does work for a clothing store, and he also works through a program, Georgia Works, which we're familiar with. He was interviewing about his record and knows that it is not the best. But, Your Honor, because it is a criminal trespass 1 count, And because he is absolutely determined and committed to staying away from that gas station, he would like to ask the court to consider signature bond.
He presently has a probation hold from 17 SC 153288. So he'll need to remain in jail until that probation matter is addressed. His current bond is going to be 500. It's going to be a surety bond, and to stay 200 yards away from the Chevron at 1337 Virginia Avenue, East Point. Next court date is September 19th. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 18, Mr. Dylan Ross.
Mr. Ross has got a misdemeanor marijuana possession charge, as well as a willful obstruction of an officer, 24 CR 6317Y. You've been advised of your rights, Mr. Ross. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, please?
2024, 2022 probation, 2021 cruelty in the first conviction. He's on probation for that. He got holds out of Douglas and Gwinnett County.
Douglas and Gwinnett County. Okay, thank you. Miss Allen, I've read the warrant. I'm going to set the bond at $1,000, $750 on willful, and $250 on the marijuana. A signature bond through the jail with a release to either Douglas or Gwinnett County. Any problem with that?
Nope.
Okay. Any problem with that, Mr. McLean? Or Mr. Cook? Who's the attorney?
No.
Oops. Oh, Mr. McLean, I think we've lost his connection. Mr. Ross, your bond is $1,000 total, signature bond through the jail. However, you cannot be released. You'll be released to the Douglas County hold or to the Gwinnett County hold. These are the two other jurisdictions that have cases against you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But don't forget, you have an active open case in Fulton County, and you'll need to make sure your address is current with us, and you need to come back to court when summoned.
Okay, when do I go back to court?
Well, right now, we're not going to give you a court date because you're going to Douglas or Gwinnett County, but you just need to make sure your address is current with us.
Yes, ma'am.
And if you don't show up, we get to issue a bench warrant for your arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Next, position number 11, Ms. Angelica Johnson.
This is State versus Ms. Angelica Johnson, accused of battery, family violence from April 20th of this year. Case number is 24 CR 6316G. Ms. Johnson, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean?
Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook? All right. Mr. Howard, any priors on Ms. Johnson?
Norris, you got a felony bond amount?
1,000.
For total. 2018 larceny out of Michigan. That was a conviction. 2017 assault and battery conviction.
That's not me. That's the issue we had in the at the felony court. That's not me.
State, you got something different?
They might have her mixed up in the GCIC.
I didn't see her arrest out of Michigan. I have this is her first arrest.
You got first? Okay. Judge, you go with that. That's fine.
Ms. Mokeke, any recommendation for battery, family violence?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll just put the facts on the record. The victim in this case is Austin Kendall. He shares a child with the defendant. The victim told officers that the defendant came to his house unannounced to pick up their son and then tried to force her way inside. When he tried to block her, she began attacking him, causing visible scratches to his face as well as a busted lip. The victim then went to his house the following day and damaged his vehicle, I believe. And that is what she was in felony court for. Our office has spoken with the victim who confirmed the events in the warrant, stated this is the first time something like this has happened. That she also came back and threw bottles at his window and damaged his screen. He did make a report of that incident as well. He states they have been in contact and there has not been any recent violence. He is okay with no violent contact and is okay with the defendant coming to his residence. The state's recommendation, her behavior is a little concerning because she went back to the house the following day and then damaged his property and was arrested on felony criminal trespass charges. So the state's recommendation is a $2,000 surety bond. We're going to recommend no further violent contact with the victim, given our conversation with him, some anger awareness, and no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. I would ask the court to sound for Mr. Austin Kendall.
Mr. Kendall, are you present?
Yes.
All right, please unmute and start your video and stop moving around. Would you like to contribute to these proceedings?
Yes, ma'am.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How many children do you share with Ms. Johnson?
One.
One. And is the child currently with you?
Yes.
All right. And do you both have a parenting plan, like you keep the child certain time and so forth?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And would you like to continue to have contact with Ms. Johnson?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
All right. Thank you very much. You may mute your screen. Mr. McLean?
This is my client, Your Honor, Keith Cook.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Cook. Yes. Mr. Cook?
Did I understand that the bond in felony court was 2,000 surety, Mr. Austin Norris?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, my client's position is that she called the police and that the alleged victim in the battery case was actually the aggressor. However, she's got the 2,000 surety. I would ask the court to take to consider the last witness's testimony. We would be looking or asking for a, if eligible, well, some family violence, the lowest surety bond possible, no anger management, and then no further violent contact.
Are you ready?
Yes, sure. Thank you.
On the battery family violence, it's going to be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. You can sign up for your bond, but you have to report to pretrial twice a month. You are to have no further violent contact with Austin Kendall? You can continue with the parenting plan that you share with Mr. Kendall, but you have to meet him elsewhere. You are not allowed to return to 1938 Lathrop Street, I think. You cannot return to that location. You have to stay 200 yards away from that location. Do you understand?
Correct, yes.
Pickup and visitation, parenting plan have to take place elsewhere, but you cannot have any physical or verbal altercations with Mr. Kendall. Otherwise, you'll be in violation of your bond. Within 30 days of being released, you are to enroll in a domestic violence program, and you must show proof of enrollment to your pretrial officer, and you are to attend each of those 24 weeks of classes while you're out on your pretrial bond. Once completed, you must show that certificate to your pretrial officer. Do you understand?
Yes.
If you fail to comply, if you get arrested again, your $5,000 signature bond disappears into thin air. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You said level 2?
Level 2.
Next, y'all, is going to be position number 14. Mr. Maxwell.
Mr. Antoine Maxwell is accused of simple battery family violence from September 5th of this year, accusations 24 CR 63038. Mr. Maxwell, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, any cycles?
I got first.
Okay. Ms. Allen, what's your recommendation?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a simple battery. It looks like the incident occurred at a park, 4780 Webb Ridge Road in Alpharetta. The victim is the current wife, Nina Maxwell, of this gentleman. It looks like they're going through a divorce. I see a divorce action complaint that was filed in June of 2024, but there are no decisions or orders at this point. She called the police and reported that while at the location with their two children, her husband arrived and walked over to her and grabbed her. This was seen by two other witnesses who stayed on scene and spoke to the police. She told the police that she asked him to stop and he refused, and then wouldn't let her leave. We're asking for an SOB bond, Your Honor, through pretrial. This is his first arrest. Have no contact with Mrs. Nina Maxwell. I'm not sure what their living situation is at this point, if they're still living in the same home. I hope not. And it needs to be third-party transfer of the children, Your Honor. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And if you would sound from Ms. Maxwell, I believe she's on the Zoom. We spoke with her today. She reported that they are having back and forth ongoing issues during their pending divorce. She would like no contact. And she's asking for a stay away from the residence. That's 485 Stainbridge Court in Alpharetta. I'm not sure what the defendant's living situation is, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Nina Maxwell, if you'd like to address the court, you need to unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. Maxwell, would you like to contribute to the proceeding? All right, I can't hear you. Can you do an audio check? 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Is the marital home Stanbridge Court?
Yes,
Okay. And you share 2 children with Mr. Maxwell?
that is correct.
And are you planning to file a divorce?
Correct.
All right. The prosecutor indicates that you don't want to have any contact and to have him stay away from the marital home. Would that be correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about the children? Do you share children with Mr. Maxwell?
Yes, we have 2 children, 4 and 6 years old.
Is there any intention to engage in a parenting plan?
Potentially in the future, he has not seen the children since August 23rd. I'm unaware of his intentions in regards to the future rearing of the children.
Your Honor, there's a complaint for divorce that was filed in June and an answer. Both parties are asking for custody of the children. There have been no hearings. I believe they've been ordered to attend mediation. There's been no determination about any property or any children or custody whatsoever.
Okay, that gives me a snapshot of what's going on. Anything else to add, Ms. Maxwell?
My only concern, there is a history of violence between us, though nothing has been reported. This most recent incident being as it also again happened in front of the children, that is my concern in regards to the pattern. Would prefer a break in regards to the children as well for the time being, just to allow us just a small amount of peace.
Okay. Mr. McLean?
I would guess, I think it's a pretty good guess they are not living together. And so we would join the state in asking for the signature bond through pretrial at whatever level the court feels appropriate.
All right. Ms. Maxwell, I'm going to impose certain restrictions against Mr. Maxwell, but if you're not comfortable with them, you still have a right to file a petition for a restraining or protective order with the Superior Court Family Violence Division. You can go to the Safe Family Violence Division, and they will assist you with regards to filing a petition for a TPO.
Yes, Your Honor. I started the process today, actually, and we'll be finishing up on Monday.
I mean, I'm just saying that's another option, but
yes,
either way, on the simple battery, Mr. Maxwell, your bond is going to be set at 5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. You'll be reporting to pretrial services twice a month. You're to have no further contact with Nina Maxwell. You're not to communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including in person, mail, email, telephone, computers, and even on social media. With regards to third-party communication, the only third-party communication you're allowed to have is through your attorney in your pending divorce action. That's the only third-party communication. Your attorney can communicate with her attorney in accordance with the law. But you yourself, no in-person, no direct communication. You're also to stay away from the 2 children that you share with Miss Maxwell. Your visitation and custody issues will be resolved or established through your divorce action that's pending, I gather, in Fulton County Superior Court. So presently, you're not to contact the 2 children until there is a visitation or parenting plan established by the Superior Court divorce action. No illegal drugs, no alcohol consumption, and since this is a domestic violence, by law, you cannot own or possess a firearm or firearms. If you own any, they have to be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. I'm assuming that you're not living at the marital home, so I don't have a problem saying you are to stay 200 yards away from 485 Stanbridge Court in Alpharetta, Georgia. Any issues regarding property settlement, separation of marital home, that's all going to be handled by the divorce action, but you cannot return to that location until further order of the court. While you are released on a signature bond, you will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 30 days of being released. You are to show proof to your pretrial officer that you are enrolled in such a program, and you will attend each and every class. It's a 24-week program, and you will pay for those classes out of your own pocket. All right. Mr. McLean, any questions?
None, Your Honor. Thank you.
Miss Maxwell, any questions?
none at the moment.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sorry. I do have one question. I would like for him to forward an address. Currently, he kind of has a flexible living situation, but our lawyers will be needing an actual address in order to.
In order to serve him.
Correct.
All right. Well, Mr. McLean, for purposes of this criminal case, what is Mr. Maxwell's mailing address?
Oh, I don't have it, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Maxwell, you're required to provide an address so we can send you a notices to come back to court. And you're also required to provide a valid address for purposes of your pretrial bond. What is your current address?
The current address I've been using is our home address, even though I have not been staying there.
You're not allowed there. So what's your new address?
My new address would be.
It has to be where you're living.
I don't have the address right
Okay.
now.
A condition of your bond is within 30 days, you have to update the court with a valid mailing address of where you're currently residing. Failure to do so will be a violation of this bond order, and you could be back in jail. Do you understand? Within 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, next is going to be position number 15, Mr. Melise.
Your Honor.
Mr. Amidi Malis. Mr. Malis, you've got three misdemeanor offenses under case 24 CR 6300E, stemming from a September 5th incident. It looks like it's criminal trespass, willful obstruction of an officer, and pedestrian crossing between adjacent intersections with traffic control devices in operation. Looks like illegal crossing at a traffic intersection. You've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors?
31. Got an open case out of the cab for obstruction, criminal damage to property, 2nd degree, trespass. 2023 FTA, 2022 obstruction conviction. 2022 misdemeanor CWAC conviction. 2019 disorderly conduct conviction. 2018 DC conviction. 2015 trespass conviction. You want me to keep going?
No, they're good. Thank you. Miss
Not my
Allen?
case.
Yes.
This is a incident that occurred at about 7 a.m. At the Greyhound station at 232 Forsyth Street Southwest, Your Honor. On the 5th, so just within the last 24 hours or so, security at the station alerted police that they had a gentleman on the scene harassing customers and refusing to leave. He had no bus ticket. The defendant, when he was told to leave, would walk out into traffic and disrupt the flow of traffic and create a dangerous situation. When police tried to detain him and spoke to him, he refused verbal commands and he was flailing his arms, avoiding being handcuffed. We're asking for a $2,000 surety, Your Honor, and a request to stay away from the location, the Greyhound bus station at 232 Forsyth Street Southwest, unless he's got a ticket, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. I would note that there was an MH or competency issue and docket in 2022, so I suspect that that's where this will also go, and I'd join the defense in any motion related to that.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, I would ask the court to consider giving him a signature bond with the condition of the BHET being done at 10 Park Place.
Okay. On the two charges in which we have warrants, the pedestrian crossing between adjacent intersections, that's going to be a $500 surety. On the willful obstruction, that's a $500 surety. And on the criminal trespass, that's going to be a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. This is a $2,000 split bond. Next court date is September 19th. And Mr. McLean, based on your conversations with your client, I'm going to leave it to your discretion as to whether a social worker visit is going to be a prudent course of action.
Very good. Thank you.
All
Your
right.
Honor, no,
I'm sorry, if you just give me a moment. He's to stay away from the Greyhound bus stations at both the Greyhound bus stations in downtown Atlanta, unless he's got a valid ticket and he plans to use a Greyhound, so he can, but he can only be there within 1 hour of traveling.
Your Honor, he does have an open case in bench warrant status, so if he is still in custody for the SAP calendar, 22 CR 00267E.
Give me that number again, 22 CR?
00267E. That's a criminal trespass from the Atlanta Food Mart on Ralph David Abernathy. He's in bench warrant status on that case.
Okay. I don't know why it doesn't show up over here. All right, Ms. Champion. Oh, here it is. All right. And is there another one, 18 CR 833E?
Ooh, I don't know. Let me look.
Yeah, there are two of them.
Let's just make sure they're all handled together if they move to a different docket. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Melis, you've got two other open cases with our State Court of Fulton County. So on September 19th, we're going to address all three cases. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Champion, please.
No. I know, I got it. Your Honor, next is gonna be position number 17, Mr. Gilbert Palmer.
Mr. Palmer, Gilbert Palmer has been charged with simple battery, family violence, and a separate count of simple battery from September 5th, 2024 in Fulton County, under accusation 24 CR 6313B. Mr. Palmer, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your appointed counsel presently is Mr. Michael McLean. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Second. Last was back in 86.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident that occurred at 4000 Summit Place in Alpharetta at apartment unit 4403. Police were called around midnight, and the victim, there are two victims in this case, Mrs. Chala, Chala, Lutz, Lutes, is in a relationship with the defendant. She reported that she and her girlfriend, Emily Long, the other victim, had gone out that evening and returned around 11:45 to find the defendant intoxicated and angry that they had gone out without him and had been gone out for so long. Mrs. Emily Long, the witness and friend of the victim, reported that the victim asked if she could come stay with her because of the defendant's behavior. And when the defendant heard that, he became angry and grabbed each of them, actually. So Mrs. Emily Long was in the common living area as Mrs. Lutz went to the bedroom to start packing her things to go stay at Emily Long's house when the defendant grabbed Mrs. Long by her wrists forcibly and shoved her down to the ground. Mrs. Lutz was in the bedroom. She heard that commotion. She came out, and that's when the defendant grabbed her by her arms and shoved her to the ground as well. It was Emily Long who called 911. We've spoken with both ladies today. Mrs. Lutz confirmed the information in the warrant and said that she's got bruising on her leg and wrist, and that her bottom is actually in pain because of where she fell on it, that she'd like, or no, that's Ms. Long. She's requesting no contact and to stay away from her resident. That's her residence is not the incident location, Your Honor. But the partner of this gentleman, Mr. Palmer, Mrs. Lutz, says that they're in a relationship and they live together there but share no children. She did confirm the events in the warrant and said he's never been violent to her before, and she's not in fear of him and wants him to return home. So it sounds like she's going to have to choose between her friend or her man. We'd asked for a $2,000 SOB through pretrial. This is his first arrest, at least in this decade. No contact with Emily Long. Stay away from her address, which is 230 Summerfield Drive in Alpharetta, and no further violent contact with Ms. Lutz. Also, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond. And if you'd like to sound from Mrs. Lutz and Mrs. Long, I believe they're both on the Zoom. Thank you.
Ms. Long and Ms. Lutz, if y'all want to chime in, this is their moment to unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. Long and Ms. Lutz, please, both of you, please raise your right hands. Do you both solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yes.
All right, Ms. Long, do you plan to go visit your friend?
Absolutely not. As long as she is with him, that is not something that I will be a part of. I cannot.
Okay, I understand. Thank you so much. Ms. Lutz?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess you can go visit Emily, but Emily's not coming to visit you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you still want to have contact with Mr. Gilbert Palmer?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't feel in fear of him?
No, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Mr. McLean, anything else to add? Ms. Lutz and Ms. Long, you can mute your screens, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. McLean, you're on mute, sir.
I'm sorry. Nothing to add to that, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Palmer, on the simple battery family violence, that's going to be 1,500. On the simple battery, that's 1,000. Your total bond is going to be 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No further contact with Emily Long. You are to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner, including staying away from wherever she's physically located. You're also to stay away from where she resides and where she works. With regards to Charlotte Lutz, you're to have no further violent contact. You may have contact with Miss Lutz, and both of you can continue to live at the what was that location? Summit Place location. I don't know if you are renting. Are you renting that location? All right. Typically, landlords are not happy with domestic violence situation, so don't be surprised if you see a dispossessory notice on your door. But just FYI, this might happen. If you do happen to have to change your address, make sure you update the court with your change of address. No illegal drugs, no alcohol consumption, and you will be subject to random screens by pretrial for alcohol and/or illegal drugs. If you fail a screen, your signature bond will be revoked and you'll be arrested again. While you are out on bond, you will enroll in domestic violence classes. That's 24 weeks of classes. And you begin those classes within 30 days. You have to enroll within 30 days of being released. After completion of the classes, you are to produce a certificate to your pretrial officer. Ms. Lutz, are there any firearms in your property? Charlotte Lutz.
Yes, ma'am.
All firearms are to be surrendered to the police authorities for destruction. Mr. Palmer, by law, is not allowed to own or possess or have any firearms within his residence as a matter of law. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next court date will be sent to your current address.
Next, y'all, is gonna be position number 20. It's a great reward.
Gregory Vaughn is accused of battery, family violence from August 7th of 2024, 24 CR 6320B. Mr. Vaughn, you've been advised of your right to remain silent and you have a right to counsel who is going to be Mr. McLean. Mr. Howard, any priors?
2023 FTA. Got an open case, 23 SC 187352. Financial identity fraud and forgery. 2023 battery DV dismissed. 2019 simple battery DV conviction.
Battery DV conviction in 2019?
Simple battery
Simple
DV.
battery, okay. All right.
Simple battery DV conviction, yes.
Got it. Thank you. Just want to be sure. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident is a delayed arrest. This is an incident that occurred on August the 7th. Police were called to 6 Rockmart Drive Southwest at about 11 a.m. They spoke to the victim. Her name is Jaliyah, Jaliyah. Last name is Martin. I believe she's joined us on the Zoom. She reports that they share a child. Officer Pitts was who initially responded. She reported that that morning the defendant had assaulted her after accusing her of sleeping with a friend. A verbal argument escalated when he grabbed her by her neck. She was asked questions about whether she lost consciousness, and she denied that she lost consciousness when talking to the police at the scene. She said once she was released by the defendant, she ran to the bedroom window and screamed for help. She saw a neighbor outside working in the yard. She also said that the defendant left the location and took her purse, but that took her cell phone, excuse me, but that he returned to the location and gave it back to her. He was no longer on scene when police were there. She did also report that he'd taken the only key to the location and she'd notified the landlord who was going to come change the locks. She also provided demographic information for this young man and identified him for police. Photos were taken of some scratches that were on her neck. A DV investigator reviewed this case, saw that there'd been a prior incident that included a claim of being strangled, similar to this one, and obtained a warrant. So although it looks like maybe Mrs. Martin told the police when she called and asked for help that she didn't want to press charges, this case is moving forward and was moved forward at that time. The defendant was picked up on outstanding warrants, Your Honor. The 2023 23 CR 008-461B is actually an assault that was against the same victim. It was null prossed on June the 6th of 2024, literally because we were unable to get the victim, Mrs. Martin, to come to court. And that is the only reason why it was null prossed. In fact, when I listened to the jail call between the two of these young people that occurred this morning at about 4 a.m., they discussed that she needed to come down here and talk to someone about making this case go away. And she told him, even though she was exasperated by the request, I got you out last time and I'll get you out this time too. She explained to the defendant that she didn't get a warrant against him. And she told him, I told you what I did. They do share a child, Your Honor. We've been in touch with the victim today. Again, she has changed her position since she spoke to police. So obviously she's following the directive of the gentleman that you're having in front of you, which is actually a felony, suborning perjury. It's a felony. So this is a crime that continues, and why jail calls are so valuable, Your Honor. So today she reported that two unknown men knocked her unconscious on the street, and she only told the police that the defendant grabbed her by the neck because she was mad at him for not being there. She did acknowledge that they have a prior case and said it was dismissed. So we're asking for a $4,000 surety bond, Your Honor, absolutely no contact with Mrs. Martin or the child they share, and to stay away from the location, which is her residence. And again, that location is 6 Rockmart Drive Southwest, Your Honor. And no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Mr. Let's see now. First, let me talk to Jalea Martin if she wants to contribute to the proceedings. Miss Martin, you have to remove the child, give the child somebody else. All right.
One moment.
Raise your screen so
One
we
moment.
can see your face and remove
Okay,
your
one
hand.
moment. One moment. One moment.
Right. Raise your device so we can see your face. Okay. Do you have something to add to this proceedings?
Yes, ma'am. That day I was like,
Raise your right hand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
What would you like to tell us?
That day I did go unconscious. I was afraid to tell the man who it was that actually did it. And when he asked me for emergency contact, I gave him my baby's father's name. I didn't say anybody else's name, so I guess he thought that that's who I was talking about, who did this to me. I was assaulted and robbed with my daughter. My baby father was not here on September the 7th. I mean, August the 7th. He was gone until the 9th. He didn't come back until the 10th. And when he asked me did I want to press charges, I said no because I didn't know who it was that came and beat me. They ran behind me while I was going inside my house. I was coming from the store. They ran behind me and caught me and my daughter going in the house. But I've seen him and his friends stay right down the street from me. I say off MLK, off Washington Road. I mean, out by Washington High School and Washington Park Library. And when he found out what happened to me, he came from his brother's house and came and seen about me and his daughter. He didn't put his hands on me or his daughter. I gave the police officer his name for contact information. He been helping me heal and everything.
Just a minute, just a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Looks like there was an eyewitness to this incident.
My neighbor, but he's out of town at the moment. But he
Yeah,
seen the dude
I'm
when he
sure,
ran
I'm sure
out.
the police will talk to him too.
Yeah, he seen the dude when he ran out.
That's
He
okay.
had short dreads in his head. Like it was on top of his head. Not long like my baby daddy. He had short dreads in his head. And he was brown skinned.
So when you reported that it was Mr. Vaughn who allegedly attacked you, did you go back to the police and change
Yes,
your
I
report?
did. He told me when I have a court date, he told me when they're gonna get back to me and contact me about a court date. But that day, the man had stole my phone and my baby father had to get me a new phone.
Okay.
So I couldn't get in touch with the officer that took the report.
All right. Thank you, Miss Martin. You can mute your screen.
Okay.
Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Your Honor, my client is 24 years old. He's an electrician's helper, but he is currently unemployed. He is very local, having grown up in the Atlanta metro area. And we'd ask the court to consider a signature bond or whatever low bond it could go with. He will abide by court orders, he told me, and the living arrangements are, I believe, right there at 6 Rock Mart.
Yes, Mr. Vaughn, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. But if you want to waive your right to remain silent, that's entirely up to you, but your attorney won't be happy with you.
I would be most unhappy.
Your Honor,
I suggest, Mr. Vaughn, I suggest that we deal with the bond setting as it is and not try the case today.
I think it's something about the bond.
I haven't said a bond yet.
No, it's about the job. Beside my electrical work, cause I'm a helper, but I've been getting up every day going job searching in person. But nobody has hit me due to my record. That's why I haven't been able to get a job fast enough. That's why I had to do like side stuff, but I had to take care of my daughter, my baby mama. So I won't be having enough money to have in my pocket to go through the program. And I also wrote it on the paper to my probation officer when I had just went to see her last month.
Okay. My concern is that the victim's alleged statement is so diametrically opposite to what was reported to the officer on August 7th. I'm not certain, but I do see in the warrant also that there was apparently an eyewitness who came to the victim's assistance. So if she is now claiming that somebody else attacked her, then I'm sure that's something that the prosecutors would like to explore with whoever they would like to go with. My concern right now is that Mr. Vaughn, this is the second time you've been arrested for a domestic violence situation in less than 24 months involving the same victim. That is not a good track record.
I haven't been there, man.
Your bond is set at $5,000. It is a surety bond. You're to have no contact with Dalia Martin. You're to stay away from, I guess that, what was it? 6 Rockmart Drive in Atlanta, Georgia. And you can have third-party transfer of the child that you share with Miss Martin. But you are, your next court date is going to be September 19th. In addition, Okay, since the other case has been null pros, this is now the only other case we're dealing with. Yes, Mr. Vaughn.
Man, I don't have anywhere else to go. I can't go to my mom's house, my sister's house.
Once you make bond, then you can go to your mother's house.
I can't.
Then
My
I
mom-
guess you'll stay at the jail.
My mom stays in a rumor house.
Then you'll stay at jail.
Why would
But
I
if-
stay here and I haven't did anything?
Oh, are you gonna make bond? Then make sure you find another place to live and update the court with your new address within 30 days.
I don't have no assets to no money. How am I gonna find somewhere else to live? I don't have no assets to no money. Nobody help me but myself, man.
All right, Mr. Vaughn, we'll see you on September 19th.
Come on, Bob. Yeah. No, he got to do it. Your Honor, position number 19, his bond was paid.
Oh, Mr. Stevens?
That is correct.
All right, sir. Just give me a quick look and if Mr. Stephen Lane, 24 CR 6321C, accused of criminal trespass. And it looks like your bond, looks like Charles Stevens paid the $600 bond by cash. So, Mr. Stevens, your case is going to be further noticed. Please be sure.
This is not him. I'm telling you, his bond was paid, so I didn't bring him to court. This is actually position 21 that needs to go.
Oh, this 21. I'm so sorry. Okay, so Lane Stevens has been released and that's further notice for trial. I'm so sorry. Gotcha now. Thank you.
And this is position number 21, and we need to break out Mr. McLean.
Okay. And do we have any other cases besides this one?
This should be it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Darius Jamal Williams is accused of failure to obey signs or control devices, seatbelt violation, driving while license suspended or revoked, and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Case number 24 CR 006-319C. This is from an August 22nd, 2024 incident. Mr. Williams, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Michael McLean. All right. Nina Maxwell, please remove her from Zoom. Mr. Jordan, please remove all non-courthouse staff from the Zoom. I have someone call MD. MD, you need to start your video.
Your Honor, can we put courtroom 2 and Mike McLean in a breakout room, please?
We could.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Jordan, let's place Miss Allen, courtroom 2, myself, and Mr. McLean in a breakout.
Just Mike McLean in courtroom 2.
Oh.
I think he got to interview him, I think, Judge.
Yeah, he has to interview him.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you already interviewed him. Mr. McLean, you still have to talk to him? Okay, he's gone. All right, they're gone. Okay, Mr. Cook, are you there? Keith Cook?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, sir, I'm just going to go over the calendar while Mr. McLean talks to his client.
Okay, thank you.
Position 1 is a $5,000 surety bond, and the reset date is September 19th. Position 2 is a $500 signature bond through the jail. He's got a probation hold, unfortunately, so I can reset this case to September 19, pending his probation hold, and he's to stay away from MARTA in accordance with all suspensions. Position 3, Berger, is a $2,000 surety bond, reset September 19th. Crosby is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 5, Davis is a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 6, Edwards is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 7 is a $2,000 surety bond, reset date September 19. 8 Harris is $1,000 surety, reset September 19. 9 is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial, level 2. 10 Hogan is $1,000 surety bond, reset date September 19th. 11 Johnson is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 2. 12 Kent is a $5,000 surety. No, excuse me, 500 is a $500 surety bond, reset date September 19. He's also got a hold in, she's got a hold in Troup County. William Long is a $500 surety bond, reset date September 19th. 14 Maxwell is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 2. 15 Melise is a $2,000 split bond, reset date September 19th. 16 Murphy is a 4,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 1. 17 Palmer is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial, level 1. Okay. 18 Dylan Ross is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail with a release to either Gwinnett or Douglas County holds. 19 Stevens was released and further notice for trial. 20 Bond is a $5,000 surety bond, reset September 19th. 21 is, we're going to address that. And 22 Jungi is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial, level 2. Okay. We'll just be in a brief recess until Mr. McLean returns with his client.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. McLean, are we ready to proceed? Mr. McLean, please unmute.
Let me hit that button better. Yes, Your Honor, I've interviewed him. We're ready.
Okay, Mr. Howard, any priors on Mr. Williams? Oh. Howard, Mr. Tucson Howard, any priors on, or Miss Allen, if you can fill that in?
What I have shows that he's got a Bibb County battery conviction from 2016. He received a marijuana conditional discharge in Henry County that was revoked. He's been unlicensed since May 2021. He's got multiple failure to appears as a result of that. And this incident occurred in August. He fled a traffic stop because he had a probation violation. So he stayed with the police long enough to give his driver's license and then fled on foot. So his warrant has been active related to August 22, 2024. Since then, he was arrested within the last 48 hours when he was driving with no headlights on, found to be in possession of ecstasy, had a firearm on him, and fled. So he had first appearance in felony court today.
And what's your bond recommendation for these charges?
We're asking for a surety bond, Your Honor. There are 5 counts. 4 counts. We'd ask for $4,000. I'm sorry, it's hard to count. $4,000, no driving, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while on bond.
Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, I understand the circumstances don't look good in several ways. However, we would like to ask the court to consider putting the other case in the driver's seat, so to speak. He did receive a $21,000 surety bond from the other court. He plans on hiring a lawyer and vigorously defending that case, as I'm sure he would vigorously defend this case. He has not yet hired that lawyer. I would ask the court to consider a signature bond or a $1,000 or $2,000 surety bond, which would help minimize the out-of-pocket cost to get on with his life.
Okay.
He will, let's see, he's got the Holly Smith Drive address. Is that correct address, sir?
Yes, sir.
Good mailing address? Okay. He's local. He's got he graduated from high school in Henry County, and Your Honor, he has 3 children, and he lives with them.
Okay. On the failure to obey a traffic control device, that's a $500 surety. And the seatbelt violation, that's a $100 surety. Driving while license suspended or revoked, that's a $1,000 surety. And willful obstruction is a $1,000 surety. His total bond is $2,600. It is a surety bond. No driving unless he has a valid driver's license attached to his person with adequate insurance and registration for the vehicle he operates. Next court date is September 19th.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Williams, that concludes your case. All right, Mr. McLean, we went over the calendar with Mr. Keith Cook. He's taken all the notes diligently for you, so I guess
That's
you can
great.
copycat him, okay?
I'll do that.
All right, otherwise, y'all have a great weekend. I'll see
Okay.
some of you on Hardworking Souls that we are on a Saturday afternoon for our next CC calendar. Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Happy Friday, everyone.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Bye-bye.